I'm a Mickaboo volunteer, just like all the people presenting and producing today's event. Before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about us. Mickaboo Companion Bird Rescue is a 501c3 nonprofit located in Northern California around Sacramento and the Bay Area. We're an all-volunteer organization, and our birds are fostered in private homes. We don't have an office or anything like that. We rely on donations in order to continue helping birds, and due to the poor state that many of the birds arrive in, our veterinary bills average $50,000 a month. Before we meet the birds, I want to talk a little bit about our adoption process. After all, this is an adoption fair. Before you can adopt from us, you'll need to go through our approval process to make sure that you're fully prepared to bring a bird home and to make sure that we understand the sort of bird that would be best for you. The process includes a class, then a phone screen, and a home visit. The bird care class is the foundation for everything else. It's free and held roughly every 2 weeks over Zoom. For those of you who haven't joined a class yet, we hope to see you at one soon. And in fact, there's one next weekend. Our process will cover your experience with birds, what you're looking for in a companion, and it will let us meet any birds that you might already have or anyone who will be helping you care for the birds. It can take some time, on the order of a couple months, so we ask you to be patient with us. While we understand that everyone is enthusiastic about adopting, for us, the most important thing is the long-term outcome for that bird. We want to make sure that we find a good fit for you and for them, not just a quick solution. Adopting a bird is a commitment, and we want to make sure that it's the one that everyone can be happy with. Finding the best fit for both you and the parrot is the most important thing for us. Today's stars are 6 Mickaboo birds who are seeking forever homes. First, we will be meeting Cebi and Hope, a pair of Budgies, then Shemu, a Cockatiel, Ed, a Jenday Conure, not a Cockatiel, Arrow, a lesser Sulphur Crested Cockatoo, and Ziki, a Cockatiel. Today, some of the birds are joining us live and others via pre-recorded videos. But in all cases, we're having live conversations with their foster homes. We hope that you'll have questions as we go, maybe about Mickaboo, maybe about parrots in general, and maybe about the birds being featured today. Please do ask. If you're watching on Zoom, use the Q&A tab. If you're watching on Facebook, just comment on the live stream. So now that the logistics are out of the way, let's meet some of our birds. Our first birds of the day are a pair of Budgies meeting us via pre-recorded video. Hi, Peggy. Can you introduce us to these little ones? Who's here on video with us now?
Hi, this is Cebi.
What a cutie.
Isn't she?
Yeah, okay, so she. Are both Cebi and her companion girls?
They are.
Got it. And what's she eating here? Looks like she has a lot of choices.
She does. So the bowl she's sitting on in the back has a little bit of rowdy bush pellets and a little bit of seed. And the plate in front has vegetables. So it has broccoli and kale and romaine and sometimes a little bit of parsley. And then it has pellets, a little bit of seed, and some Nutri-An cake.
That's a good assortment of a lot of things that are healthy and fun for Budgies to eat. How old is Cebi?
So Cebi is almost 2, and we know that from when she was surrendered. The surrenderer had put the dates of purchase. Oh, here's Hope peeking in the corner.
Oh, very good. So now we can meet Hope as well.
Yes.
Do we know how old Hope is?
So Hope is about 6 years old.
Okay. So a little bit of an age difference there.
Yes. So they were surrendered actually as a trio. There was a male, and I have a house full of girl fosters, so the boy went to someone else who has a boy foster,
Mhm.
fosters boys. There's Hope.
Ah,
And so I got the two girls. So the boy and Hope were the same age, and then Cebi was added a couple years later.
I see. Um, are they comfortable with people? They seem to be comfortable with cameras, at least.
It was very surprising when I took this that they were so curious about the camera. Hope is not as scared of hands. I can scritch her around her cheeks and the top of her head a little bit. And I can, she has a little weight, a big weight issue.
Mm,
These birds all came in to us. They were very overweight. And so I can just pick her up and put her in her little travel cage on the gram scale to weigh her. So she's
mhm.
not afraid of hands. She's fine. Cebi, not so much.
Ah.
Um, yeah.
Um, do we know if they are comfortable with children or with other animals in the house?
Um, I do not know about the children. I imagine they would probably be no different. But like any bird, it would be a case of under supervision.
Mhm.
I do have a small dog, and he runs up and down the hallway, and he doesn't be bothered by them, and they don't seem to be bothered by him.
Mhm.
But
I
he
bundled
mostly
those two
ignores them.
questions together on purpose because um, having many birds and a small child in my house, I feel like they fall in the same under supervision category.
Yes. Yeah. No, the dog actually, he doesn't like it when the new birds come in, and he doesn't like it when they get adopted. He likes the
Mm,
status flow.
hmm. Yeah, that's one of the challenges of fostering for see a lot of happy endings and success stories though. So
Yes.
sorry, pup. So we've talked a little bit about what Cebi and Hope eat, and that you have to manage their weight carefully. So, and here I see it looks like they do pick at their leafy greens.
Yes.
So just like with
Yes,
us
that was,
humans, that's a helpful way to sort of manage weight with filling up on those veggies.
and
Um,
they're actually quite active. They go back and forth in their cage. They're always moving around.
mhm.
And so that's looking the length of their cage.
Ah, I see.
So it's set up so they can go back and forth and actually fly
Mhm.
that bit. So they're very active. So it's more a case of, I think, controlling how much of the high calorie food they get.
Yeah.
Um, because they're certainly very active. And
Mhm.
I've also
Mhm.
found that I don't think they particularly like each other. So I would definitely say they're not bonded. And you can kind of see that a little bit in the video. They'll kind of almost peck at each other a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
I do see a lot of the sort of open beak toward each other of back off,
yeah.
and they're not sitting close together. Frequently, I only see one or the other in frame at one time. And so that, and then this change of perspective where we're looking the long way down the cage leads really well into my next sort of pair of questions, which I'll ask together. What are some of their typical activities and how big is their cage?
So their cage, left to right is 18 inches in width, 18 inches high, and it's 30 inches long. So back where Hope is by the yellow mirror from where the camera is 30 inches.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they have room to go back and forth. They fly. If you notice, they go through their swing and onto their swing. That long perch that Sebi's currently on is also a swing. It's got leather loops on both ends and it's tied up to the top. And she seems to really enjoy that. And then Sebi also loves that multicolored hanging toy
Got it.
in the background. Hope
Mm-hmm.
likes that little yellow mirror there that she's next to, and Sebi tends to hang on the other side of the toy in the other yellow mirror
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to be too close to each other. And when I
Interesting.
uncover them in the morning, Hope is usually by that mirror, and Sebi's actually in the foreground on the rope ladder you see in the front.
Got it. Okay, we have an audience question about these two, and I'll ask it and remind everyone you can ask the questions via the Q&A tab in Zoom or the live stream on Facebook. So the question is, are these birds available soon? I am interested. So Peggy, can you take that? And I'll throw in the part of, would they be best adopted together or separately, or does it
I would
matter?
say either way, they've lived together for several years.
Mhm.
So I would say at best they tolerate each other, but I
Mhm.
would say that there's nothing that says they have to be adopted together. So if someone's looking for a companion for an existing bird, because we do like our budgies to be a minimum of 2,
Mhm.
somebody could certainly be a companion for someone else.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that,
So
yes, they are, and yes, they are available. If you've gone through the process, they
Mhm.
would be available. And the big things would be to keep track of is their weight. And Hope is probably ready also, if you look at her here, for a beak trim. And
I
some of
see.
that may be related to poor diet in the past.
I see. Okay. So do they need any special care? Does Hope need ongoing beak trim? Any
I'm
kind of maintenance?
I'm hoping that the beak trim, oh, well, there goes Cebi on her toy.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that Hope's beak trim, she probably needs one now, and I'm hoping that as she continues with a good diet,
Mhm.
that if it is related to health issues, that it may not need to be trimmed in the future or as often.
Yeah.
Um, but you can see it there when she turns her head.
Mhm. For people who aren't as used to looking at bird anatomy and tying it to health, when parrots are overweight, it can tie into liver issues. And when parrots have liver issues, it can tie in to overgrowth of their beak and nails. None of this means that you don't need to go to a vet. Those are visual cues that can also mean you have other issues. But because of what we know about weight management for these two birds, it is an indication that as we keep controlling their weight, giving them a healthy diet, lots of opportunities for exercise, the beak issues may or may not decrease, but they are something for an adopter to consider. Beak trims and maintenance are not particularly difficult or expensive care when you have an established relationship with an avian vet, but it is something to consider. Um, yeah, I'm loving it. We have another audience question about these birds. Are they tame?
Well, as I said before, Hope will let me scritch her. She's
Mm-hmm.
not afraid of hands.
Mm-hmm.
On occasion, she does step up. Um, Otherwise, you put your finger in and she'll sit there and look at you like, yeah, what? But I had my sister put her finger in one day. She stepped up and then she didn't want to get off. And my sister goes, what do I do now? And it's like,
That's great.
put her next to a perch and let her. Cebi, you put your hand in, you look at her funny and she's gone.
Oh, okay.
So not
Yeah.
so much.
So Cebi's not particularly tame, but certainly not afraid of people. Hope, I don't know, a budgie who will get on your hand and who will accept having their head scratched. Budgies are not usually very big on having themselves touched. So I'd call that a tame budgie. And certainly it sounds like they're comfortable and confident to fit into homes. Um, we are about out of time. But before we wrap up, are there any last things you'd like potential adopters to know about Cebi and Hope? And I love their leafy greens hanging from the top of the cage here.
Well, I learned a lot actually recording these videos because they don't always like to eat in front of me. And
Mm,
so I can stand in the doorway and kind of watch. So I learned that Hope does pick up and chew on the broccoli.
mhm.
And in the last few weeks, I found that both of them really like the parsley hanging, because if
Ah,
you wet it, it's a combination of food, a shower, and a toy all in one. And they'll rub against it to get wet. And when I go back in later to change it or to take it out, I'll have nothing but stalks hanging in the clip, and the parsley's all at the bottom of the cage.
that's fantastic. Thank you
So,
so much for that tip. I think that's one that can apply to all small parrots and actually quite a lot of big ones too.
mhm,
Multi-purpose parsley.
yes,
Thank you, Peggy, for introducing us to Cebi and Hope. Next,
you're
we'll be
welcome.
meeting a cockatiel named Shemu, who's also coming to us via pre-recorded video. Ah, here's Shemu. And as we begin, reminder to the audience, please do keep the questions coming via the Q&A in Zoom and commenting on the video stream in Facebook. So hello, Sarah. Can you introduce us?
Hello, hello. Yeah, this is Shemu. Shemu is a male white-faced cockatiel, and he's an older guy. In fact, he's pretty old for a cockatiel. We think he's 31.
Oh my, yeah, that is on the not extraordinary, but certainly notable.
I mean, I think it's approaching extraordinary. I mean, I think the
Oh,
Guinness
really?
Book of World
Okay.
Records officially has, a cockatiel in the early 30s is the oldest.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I have heard a lot of people who obviously taken great care of their cockatiels and had them live to be 30. But I
Mhm.
think as a general rule, a lot
Okay.
do not make it that far. So yeah,
I will correct myself and say
well,
extraordinary.
that's what I've
Happy
heard.
to
You may
do
have other
so.
stories. That's okay.
I don't. It's pure. I don't know what I said that based upon. So Shemu is a distinguished gentleman, white-faced cockatiel, and we know he's male.
We are pretty
Or
confident. We don't
suspect.
have DNA results or anything, but from his behavior and his vocalizations, that gives us a high degree of confidence that he's male. There's a lot of visual cues and behavioral cues in cockatiels that can make it easier than with other species of parrots. So he's a big whistler, and that's a big giveaway. In addition, females as white faces would usually have a lot more gray on their face. So he really looks like he's a male.
I see. I see his beak moving right now while you're scratching at his head. Is he whistling in this video?
Yeah. He's way more enjoying the whistling than the finger scratching, honestly. He's not really, he's not really excited about hands. He will kind of begrudgingly allow a finger to approach, but if you try to put your whole hand near him, he'll just take off and run away. So but what he really loves, and you can see like under his beak, his sort of whole chin and throat is puffing up when he's whistling. He's singing away, and I'm whistling back at him. So he does enjoy human attention, but in the form of whistling. He just wants to whistle back at you, and he's got a few little whistles that he makes. So that's his thing. He doesn't want to step up on your hand, but he really wants to hang out and whistle with you.
Okay. So I think that clearly answers my question. Is Shemu comfortable with people? Yes, on very specific terms.
Exactly. Yeah. He loves the attention of people. When we sit down to eat, he's in our dining room and he wants to eat his meals when you're eating your meals. Like he's very social. But yeah, on his terms. He doesn't want to be on your arm or your shoulder. He doesn't want to be on your hand. He's not really a huge fan of the scritching thing. You can see there's a couple of moments here where he's like, do you really have to do that? Can we not just whistle? I mean, he will come right up to your face. Like he can be like an inch from your nose and just whistling back and forth with you. But the finger thing is much less of a fun thing for him.
A big challenge.
Which, like in this, I kind of did this deliberately in the video. So I think a lot of people really imagine having a bird step up on their hands. And it's, I think it's helpful to show that some birds can be really friendly, but it's not about hands, it's about faces and social
Yeah.
time with you, maybe by stepping up on a rope perch that you hold, or,
Mhm.
you know, other ways to spend time with you, not necessarily
Mhm.
being like on your finger.
Yeah, got it. We have two good audience questions here about Shemu. Does Shemu have any health issues? Is the first one.
Nothing significant, but there are a couple of things I would mention. When he first came into us, he had absolutely no tail feathers.
Oh.
And sometimes when we take in a really senior bird, they don't have tail feathers, and that can be, you know, dating back to some historical event in their lives when something happened or they had an injury and they just don't have a lot of tail feathers. I mean, I've got a couple of older birds here in their 40s who literally just have a couple of really pathetic looking tail feathers hanging off one side of their butt.
Oh.
And that's just how they are all the time.
Uh-huh.
But his have grown back in quite a lot. He's got, you can see at different angles in the video, he's got most of his left side tail feathers have grown in quite nicely.
Mhm.
And the right ones, there's some hope. I'm seeing some growth, but I've also seen a few dropped growing feathers, and he's really easily spooked. So he, you know, if you are moving around after dark when the birds are covered and it's bedtime, you know, any kind of light coming on or any movement near him will he will have a almost like a mini night fright. He's very easily disturbed and skittish, and I
Okay.
would consider, you know, it's really important to keep him well covered at night and don't
Okay.
disturb
Yeah.
the
He needs a
area.
good safe
He needs a
situation.
proper
Dark and
sleep
quiet.
room. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can't be interrupting his sleep because he will have little panics and he could drop a feather or break a blood feather. So, yeah, that's, I think that would be important just to avoid him, you know, getting an unnecessary bleed or injury from panicking in his cage or hurting himself.
Okay.
And yeah, and just with his age as well, he can fly, and it's really good for him to fly and
Mhm.
enjoy some out time.
Exercise.
Yeah, I would keep that
Normal
up.
behavior.
And he will chew on greens. We give him a variety of wet greens like kale or chard, collard greens, romaine, cilantro, different herbs. And I've noticed again, the most I've seen him eating them is when other people are eating around him,
I see.
other
So
birds
to
or
that
us.
effect, we actually have a couple audience questions about diet, and we have more. So audience, please do keep them coming.
Oh, cool.
I'm moving through them as I can here. So here, pair of food related questions. One, what is his diet? And then what is the best source of information for safe fresh foods for cockatiels, as well as common foods that are unhealthy or dangerous? So let's start with what is Shemu's diet?
Okay, yeah. Shemu is mainly eating nutrient cakes. Nutrient cakes are made by Lefebvre. They're a moist combination of pellets and seed that's bound together in a nutritious binding. So you buy them in a pack that comes kind of pre-pressed into squares. So, you know, he gets a couple for a mealtime, and we kind of crumble them up in the food dish so he can chew them up. And that's his favorite thing. He picks out of the dish first, which is great. I do give him a little bit of cockatiel pellets. Sometimes it's Harrison, sometimes it's Zupreme. I think I don't make it the majority of what he eats, but it's nice to keep him open to trying different foods. And he gets a little bit of seed or millet as well. And then he gets some kind of fresh green leaf clipped in his cage, like run under the tap, dripping wet every day. So he can use it as a chew toy or lick the water off of it. And he's kind of 50-50 on that. Some days he really goes for it, and other days he just kind of makes a couple of little holes and then doesn't get into it. So just depends on how he's feeling. But yeah, I mean, you know, grated carrot, chopped up sweet corn, broccoli, finely chopped peppers. I haven't had a lot of luck with him with other vegetables. But you know, I'd make different kinds of chop, and they appeal to different sizes of foster birds here. So you could keep experimenting and see, maybe sprinkling the nutrient cake over some chop might get him to try it a bit more. I haven't I just thought of that just now while I was talking about food.
We're all different, and there are so many different ways to present food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Birds are very, very different than us in some ways and very similar in others. Let's take the other related question of good sources of information about safe foods and unhealthy and unsafe foods. What are good sources of information? And I'm going to start and say our class.
Yeah, shout out to the bird care class. Every 2 weeks we do a free bird care class over Zoom. And we alternate it between Saturdays and Sundays. And we have a whole section in there on diet where we cover the basic food groups to include for most species. And we talk about relative proportions of different types of food, so that includes leafy greens, root vegetables, fresh veggies, nutritious fruit, and a little bit of nuts and seeds as treats as well. We talk about feeding practices, including meal feeding and foraging, in order to give the birds more enrichment and some sense of routine, and the benefits of foraging for enrichment, ideas for converting birds if they've been in an all-seed diet in the past, lots of tips and tricks to encourage them to try fresh food. It can be done, and I will not buy anyone telling me as they hand over a bird, oh, we tried to get them to eat vegetables and they don't like them. They will absolutely eat vegetables, but it can be a journey, and we have lots and lots of tips and suggestions for succeeding with that. Everything from lighting to social modeling, presentation, trying it on skewers, different types of dishes, how we serve it, cooking it, baking it into muffins. I mean, there's just endless ways that you can encourage your bird to try eating healthier food, and it absolutely can be done. So yeah, the bird care class is a great resource. And there are others too. But I would say if you haven't done our bird care class, it really is a great place to start.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to the end of our time, so I want to bundle together another audience question and one of my standard questions for you. So the audience question, has he ever been near or raised with other birds? And the question I always ask our foster homes is, how did Shemu come to Mickaboo? So I think those are two good questions to put together as we get close to the end of our time.
Yes, Shemu's situation was a little unusual. He had been living with a household that had other birds. They come from various sources over time. They started out with an Amazon, over 30 years ago. And then they sort of picked up other birds along the way. In fact, we're going to meet another one of those birds next, coming up. So Shemu was living with the bird we're going to see next as well. But Shemu belonged to this person's father originally in 1994, which is how we are so confident about his age. And then when father passed away, the current owner took care of Shemu and added Shemu to the collection of birds they had. They had a kind of indoor courtyard, which had a fresh air roof that they'd screened off, and they'd set up lots of branches as perches, and they had different species of birds living in the same enclosure. We would not recommend that because they had some really big birds and some really small birds. But fortunately there was enough space and everyone just kind of got along. There were enough food bowls. So at least it did give them the chance to fly and exercise. Yeah, it was an interesting setup, something pretty unusual we don't see very often. We find that most birds really enjoy the company of their own species. So Shemu did pick up a whistle that one of the Amazons there was making, and got some enrichment out of whistling back and forth with one of the birds there. But Shemu definitely enjoys being around people, and also ambiently around other birds. I did try them out in a room here just to confirm that no one was bonded and nobody wanted to be with anybody else. So we did a sort of supervised experiment after we moved them, and I don't think any of these birds are bonded and need to stay together, but they shouldn't be the only bird in the house, I think. And they definitely also enjoy the company of people.
I did see a couple of audience questions about specific pairing scenarios of households where they'd like to know if Shemu would be a good fit for them. And some of these are households that have already been through our process. So to those
Oh,
of
wow.
you who want to know, we'll circle back with you after the event so that so we can think about the specific sets of birds and cage setups and everything that you have. We can't really go to that level of detail during the event, but I just want to acknowledge I'm loving all the questions we're getting today. This is a great audience. We are over time with Shemu, but you know, for an exceptional bird of exceptional age, I think an exceptional amount of time is fair.
I would agree.
Before we do move on, are there any last things you would like potential adopters to know about him?
Well, obviously he's older, so I think you should expect, you know, we usually recommend annual health checks. You definitely need to keep those up for him. Birds, you know, at his age, you know, keeping them hydrated is important. Encourage him to eat those fresh foods, keeping him on nutrient cakes so that he gets the moisture out of those. A pellet only diet at his age would be way too dry. And so, you know, all the things that help senior birds with hydration and exercise, really, really important with every extra year that we add on. So it would be important to keep all those things up and be really good buddies with your vet, because, you know, when they get senior, you know, you want to be on the watch for any signs of changes in mobility or other health problems.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you so much for introducing us to Shemu, Sarah.
He's really sweet. I wish I could keep him, but you know, that's what we do here. He's got to find a home.
Not the fostering gig. Yeah. Let them go so we can meet more and seeing the success stories. So now let's switch gears and meet another foster of yours. So this is Ed. And I know Ed is a conure, but I'm not so up on my South American birds. So how about you tell us some more about Ed?
Yes, this is Ed. He is a Jenday Conure. And we are not as confident about his age precisely, but we're guessing he's somewhere in the 15 to 20 years old mark. He was found as a stray on a golf course.
And then he was living in the same household as
That's
Shemu.
right. Yeah, it was another family member of the same family that had Shemu, who was out golfing, and Jenday just kind of landed on the golf course. And they said, oh, well, you know, I have someone in my family who's a bird person, and they took Ed home to them.
Yep.
And they just brought Ed into their courtyard enclosure and kind of added Ed to the collection. So Ed is very people friendly, and my sense from him is that he really doesn't care about other birds. He was probably a hand-raised pet, and he really just wants the attention of humans. So
poofy head.
Yeah, he's just full of pin feathers, but he's not really into scritches. So he doesn't mind hands. You can touch him, but he doesn't love to step up. He really just wants to be on your shoulder and yell straight into your ear directly without your hand in the way. So very squeaky bird.
We should probably talk about the volume.
Yeah, we should be very clear. Big disclaimer: the sounds off in this video, but you know, Aratingas are just very, very high pitched, and you know, Ed's got a lot to say. A lot, you know, the minute that you walk in the room, Ed's like, "Oh, there you are! Hi, how are you? Squeaky, 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 squeaky." It's just continuous. So yeah, you definitely need to be comfortable if you haven't experienced that volume before. That's him chewing at the tab on my phone case. I'll just explain. He's not aggressive. He was not trying to bite my hand or anything. He was trying to check out. There's a little tab that hangs off my phone case.
Oh, that was excitement, not.
That was, what is that thing on your phone case? Yeah, it looks like a chew toy to him. So it's not. He's out of all the conures I've ever fostered, I mean, he's just at the very bottom of the. There's no biting, nipping, nothing. I mean, just super gentle with his beak. Super, super gentle.
That does sound like a that and wanting to be on your shoulder, but not wanting to step up. And this does sound like a hand-raised baby who really kind of
Yeah.
got their own way.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little
Never-
sad for
never
him, you know,
learned to
he's never
hold
got to
on.
be a bird, but
Yeah, never got to be a bird. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
very, very friendly, very needy
Mhm.
though as a result. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. That's a hard thing that we do prepare it sometimes.
Yeah.
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 We've been saying he. Do we know whether Ed is male or female?
We don't. And I'm really on the fence about it. I will say sometimes there's some hormonal behavior where Ed will sort of turn around and press her butt up against your arm, and that seems more female to me. So I think you really a DNA test would be the only way to know.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're going with the name Ed because that's Ed's name. That's what they
Mhm.
know. But
Yeah.
we don't have a DNA test to back it up either way. There's no way to know
Yeah.
for sure.
And that is, to be clear for everyone who's watching, that's not something we will do unless there's a medical reason why that information would help us. We have
Yeah, but if you adopted
lot of
Ed, I
vet
mean, it's
bills.
not.
You
Right,
can
right,
do
that's-
it. It's not invasive. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to know, you can know, but we are not going to find out unless it helps us with a medical.
Yeah, that's just us being, you know, financially responsible with Mickaboo's fundraising. There's no
Yeah.
medical need for us to know, but you could
Mhm.
absolutely, you know, the next time that he had a blood panel done in his annual
Mhm.
checkup, you could just pay a tiny bit extra to get that information added onto your
Yeah.
testing, for
Yeah.
sure. And a lot of
Um,
people do.
Yeah. So audience question, and we don't have the answer to how old Ed is, but do we know how long it's been since he was found on the golf course? So he's X plus.
Yeah, that was 7 years ago.
Okay.
And
All
Ed
right.
already looked like not a juvenile.
Okay.
And we're going based off of body condition, you know, sometimes just looking at their beak and their feet and their feather condition.
Mhm.
We get a little bit of a sense. He can fly. He prefers not to. He will fly if he's spooked or really needs to.
Okay.
You know, when I've set him up in his new cage, he flew away from it out of sheer terror. I was like, what is this big thing? But yeah, he prefers to get carried around. He will step up if there's something that he wants to get towards, like, you know, if he's out of his cage and then you give him
Mhm.
breakfast, he's like,
Mhm.
oh, help me get back in. But you know, the way he moves around, he's not super fast. It makes me think he's a little older. He's not
Mhm.
zippy like a really young, super young, like 3 or 4-year-old conure is. He's a little bit more stately with his you know, cage movement, climbing around on the top and stuff.
Mhm.
He preferred to accept my offer of a hand to get back into his cage this morning instead of climbing down himself, which, you know, that says older bird to me.
Got it. We have an audience question, and because I know you do foster other birds, you probably can answer this. How is he with other birds? Would he do okay with another bird in the home?
I'd say it's pretty indifferent. When I went to pick up the birds, it was October last year. There was a smaller Amazon living there that was even older, in their 30s. And when I walked into the courtyard, for the first time holding a carrier and perches and towels and stuff, Ed immediately scooted up a branch and tucked themselves right up hard against that Amazon for at first that made me think they were bonded. I actually put them in the same carrier because I wanted them to have each other for
Some comfort while
some
life
yeah.
implodes.
But then I watched them a little bit more, and Ed was actually pushing the Amazon off the food dish when I served breakfast.
Oh my.
So Ed was the bossy one. I mean, this is I'll emphasize, I do not recommend putting a conure and Amazon together. This is a very old, slow Amazon, and an Amazon could really hurt a conure. So I had some caution around it, but you know, also, I don't want to break up any pairs, and we've seen some crazy pairs over the years from different places. So
when you're moving birds from a home with little information and they actually go to physically be with each other, you make
we're
your
taking
best
our
guess
cues
initially, and
Yeah, and then just lots of
there.
observation
Yeah.
and giving them
Mhm.
opportunities to be out and seeing how they interact with each other. And it became very clear that they weren't preening each other and they both needed preening. You know, they weren't spending time next to each other. They were not bonded. So you know, I think it was more stranger danger, you know,
Yeah.
ran to the Amazon out of fear of me as
Ed,
prey
Ed was
animals.
using the Amazon as a shield.
Yes. So yeah, they're pretty indifferent about each other.
Another audience question, and thank you all. Please do keep them coming to the Q&A and the Facebook live stream. What's the lifespan for a Jenday Conure?
Up to about 35 years old with good care and good diet. So, you know, there could be 15 to 20 more years here easily. And, you know, again, we're guessing, so there's a margin of error there.
Yes. What size is Ed's cage? Or what size is, I know sometimes Foster and like whatever he's sitting on in quarantine here obviously is smaller than what he would have, but what's a good size for a Jenday Conure cage?
I think our Conure cage guidelines are 24 by 24 inches as a minimum with, you know, for them 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch bar spacing, no bigger than that. That's minimum. Obviously, the wider you can go, the better. And Ed was living in a courtyard enclosure that was significantly larger with the opportunity to fly. I don't think he was using it a lot, but it did give him a lot of space to walk around and stay active. And that's obviously good. You know, want to keep birds moving as they get older. You don't want any perched potatoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is I think this cage is 24 inches wide. So it's fine. But getting out time is important like this, and spending time with you is important. And if you can get something like an HQ flight cage, which is about 31 inches wide, would be really nice for Ed with regular out time as well. And if you put swings and boings inside as well, that sort of encourages them to move even when they're inside. So they're not completely.
And it makes that space feel a lot smaller real fast. I'm always surprised when I start putting things like boings in a cage.
Yeah, I like if birds don't seem to enjoy swings, then putting a boing in there is a nice way to still get them on something that's going to move a little under them and keep their body moving even when they're just hanging out.
We are just about out of time with Ed, but before we wrap up, are there any last things you'd like potential adopters to know about him?
He's very squeaky. If you haven't been around Sun Conure or a Jenday or other Aratinga species, definitely spend some time with some. I mean, obviously, once you've gone through our approval process, you can come and visit the foster birds. He's is not any quieter once he's on your shoulder. So I think you know, extended yelling like that in your ear, you know, over time could affect your hearing. So, you know, think about what you're comfortable with and the other people in your house. We get a lot of people who love the personality of this species, but don't love the noises they make. He sometimes makes little noises that sound like step up, step up, step up. It's not, the consonants aren't quite all there, but you can tell from the intonation, it sounds a lot like step up, step up, step up. Like it's very much like someone clearly used to say step up to him a lot, and he will repeat that. Which is very cute. But when he's very excited and he sees you or he wants to be next to you, then he's just gonna scream at you. He'll do this excited sideways dance thing as well. You're seeing a little version of it here, but sometimes if you look over and he's trying to get your attention and you finally look over, he does this cute little sort of side to side wobble, like it's just out of sheer excitement that he's got your attention and wants more of it. He's a really sweet bird. He definitely needs someone who's got a lot of time for him.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for introducing us to Ed.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to meet a cockatoo named Arrow, and Arrow is coming to us live. Hi, Sophia. Can you introduce us?
Yeah, this is Arrow. She's a 19-year-old lesser sulphur crested cockatoo.
Hi, Arrow. Should we, and you said she.
Yes, she's definitely a female.
Yeah, I know that there's some ways, like by observation, you can tell cockatoos sexes,
Yeah, there's
right?
actually with cockatoos, it's the color of their iris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so her pupil is black, but she has brown iris around the pupil, but she has also had a test.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's also had a blood test. So she's definitely a female.
Before we get started, let's talk to people about the dramatic black lighting.
Yeah, so
Arrow's cage is in a very bright location, actually.
yeah, so there's a window behind us and a window next to her cage, but I have them darkened so that we don't get the backlight on the video. So she's not living in a dark not living in a dark room and shouldn't be. It's just for this video. Yeah.
Yeah. White bird, bright light, hard to see.
Yeah, the backlighting makes the video, you can't see it all, but that's not real life, just in the Zoom video.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do it for 20 minutes, but not a way to live. So as a reminder to our audience, please do keep the questions coming. They're great. It's been so nice to have all these questions today, Q&A in chat and the live stream on Facebook, the Q&A in Zoom, sorry. So my first question, usually one of my first questions, is Arrow comfortable with people? And obviously on some level, yes, I see her sitting there comfortably by you, screening.
Yeah, she's very specific about who she likes. And from what we know in the background, from her past, she likes female humans. So definitely we're looking for an adopter who the female human would be the primary caretaker. And just in case you're a male looking for a lesser sulfur crested cockatoo, we have 2 other lesser sulfur cresteds available now that are very male specific human birds, and that is Petey and Sappy. So if you no one has to miss out.
I have met Petey, and when I go in the door of his foster home, he looks straight past me to my husband. So yes, 100% can confirm.
Exactly.
Have our first audience question here. Is Arrow still plucking?
I'm sorry, one more time with the question.
Is Arrow still plucking? So I think somebody's observing the feathers.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell. So she's been with me since 2 weeks before Christmas, and I haven't seen her plucking, but you know, she's done some grooming, so it's hard to tell at this point if she's plucking them. She seems really happy, but I forgot to tell you her background story, which is she has only been in one home before she came here, and she was with a husband and wife, and the wife actually passed away 7 years ago, and the husband continued to take care of her, but he couldn't take her out of the cage without her biting him. So she was pretty much cage bound. I mean, he had a female friend that would come visit that Arrow really liked. So when she visited, Arrow would come out, but otherwise she was pretty much in the cage just because she didn't like him.
Oh,
and
he's been lonely for a long time.
Yeah, he tried. Well, he had other birds, and so he tried really hard to take care of all the birds. But at this point, he's older and has his own health problems, and so he really couldn't take care of them anymore.
Understandable. One of the audience members asked, so I'll confirm again here. Arrow is 19, is that correct? 19 years old?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. She's 19 years old. Yep. And she's been, I have her health records. She has been seen at Medical Center for Birds.
Okay.
And they had done her blood test when she was really young, like 7 months old. So they probably weren't sure based on the eye color at that time.
I see. Yeah. So what does Arrow, what's a routine day for Arrow like? What are her typical behaviors?
So Arrow, she really likes to ring her bell. So that's her favorite toy. And so a typical day, so she gets a little bit of bread as a treat in the morning, and she's like Safeway Select. nut and grain bread torn into little pieces. So she gets a few of those as a treat. And then she's a very smart bird. So I do foraging to give her pellets. So I actually have another wheel I was going to show. So this is how she gets her pellets. This is a new one, but her pellets are in a wheel like this. And so she has to forage to get them throughout the day. Then in the afternoon, she gets fruit and vegetables. So in a separate dish, and she loves mini peppers, fresh mini peppers. And she'll also eat hot peppers. So she gets the whole mini pepper, and she likes to pick out, eat some of the seeds in there and whatnot. Baby carrots and sugar snap peas. Those are her favorites. But I have gotten her to also eat cauliflower, broccoli, cucumber, some orange and apple. So I'm trying different things. And she picked up some spinach. So I'm trying to add some additional veggies and fruit to her otherwise diet. And her pellets are Harrison's horse pepper. So she's been on a very good diet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised by how many people don't know and are surprised to realize that, in my experience, a lot of parrots like the seeds of bell peppers. Like every pepper that we eat in this house, the seeds go to the birds. Like somebody always wants to eat them. They're a good food. I think it might be nice. Do you ever put any kind of foraging things in that blue ball I see behind you? Have you ever done that?
That one's kind of new. I'm just trying to get her used to that. And I have really bought a bunch of foraging toys. So we have, she likes the tumbler. There's a K-Tech tumbler that she likes. It's spelled CAITEC. They make a lot of foraging stuff. And we're also working on the windmill, but she hasn't taken to that as much. But a wheel she's on immediately. Any kind of wheel. She's used to that because they used that before in her other home. Yeah.
So she has an idea of how to approach a puzzle like that. So
she's very smart, and so she really needs her brain stimulated. So she's not spending all her time on mating type behavior.
Yeah, which should, depending on the cause, I should preface it that way. Depending on the cause of her plucking, that may help sort of keep it abated. It's always a tough thing to manage.
I mean, she wasn't getting out of the cage for 7 years hardly at all, and I'm sure that's part of why she started plucking. And when they start, sometimes they don't stop. We just don't know. But she doesn't mutilate herself, so it's not a health problem. She's healthy.
That's fortunate. It's very fortunate. What size is Arrow's cage?
Arrow's cage is 32 inches wide by 23 inches deep. And I think it's the inside where she is 40 inches high.
That's always a tricky thing because there's the height from the ground, but then there's the part that's actually like, if you were inside of it, how big is that cage?
Yeah, I'm just giving the inside. Yeah. Just the inside of her cage. And it's 3/4 inch bar spacing.
Yeah.
She's a very small bird.
We always have to look at the bar spacing very carefully so their heads don't get stuck or other body parts. It's a real safety concern. Yeah. Does Arrow need any kind of special care?
Nope, she's a healthy bird. She just needs a lot of foraging opportunities so she can no mating type behavior, because that's really hard on her body to have eggs. And she did have an egg on the bottom of the cage when we picked her up. And she also is asking me to pet her under the wing, which she's holding up her wing. And you should never pet a cockatoo under their wing, because let's
talk about that for a minute. Okay. People really don't know, I think. And they just, like, cockatoos have a reputation of they look so snuggly. So go.
You only want to pet a cockatoo above the neck. and on their feet, because otherwise, you know, you don't want to stroke them down the back or under their wings, because that is a sexually stimulating behavior for them. And that can cause a lot of problems. They can have prolapses, you know, eggs are hard on their body to have. It takes a lot out of their body. They can have stuck eggs and soft shell eggs and all kinds of awful stuff. So you just don't want to do that at all.
It's so counterintuitive when you think about how you would interact with a cat or a puppy, or, you know, you like give them a belly rub, or like, you know, pet them on the back, like all these things. And it's not instinctual as a human not to touch those parts of
Definitely.
the body. Yeah, really important. Couple more audience questions about Arrow. Does she like to play in water, get sprayed, or any other type of water play?
So in order to bathe her, I'm using a really fine mist spray. And I guess the wife, her owner, when she was alive, did use a spray bottle to give her bath, but she hasn't had a bath in about 7 years, I don't think. So at least, you know, she may have bathed in her water dish, but she hadn't had spray. So I'm just doing a little bit at a time. And she's kind of getting used to it now, but I'm not overdoing. I'm just doing a little, and then she watches my other birds enjoy it. So I think that helps too. But she's not totally into it at this point yet.
Sure.
But that probably will help her feather condition as well.
I would think so, yeah. And last audience question, what time does Arrow go to sleep and get up in the morning?
Arrow, usually when you try to give a cockatoo, you want to give a cockatiel ideally 12 hours of sleep a night where where it's dark. So I just kind of do it according to my schedule. So I probably stay up too late. So she gets up later than she should, and then stays up later than she should.
12 hours is 12 hours. We are just about out of time, but before we wrap up, are there any last things you'd like potential adopters to know about Arrow?
So she's not doing it right now, but she does ride on my shoulder, and she'll groom my hair, and she's very friendly. She always wants to sit on my lap. So she was doing that earlier, but you know, she's like a toddler. She got bored with the video waiting.
Yeah, you can't predict what they're going to do at any given moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for introducing us to Arrow.
Thank you.
Now we're going to meet one of her smaller cousins to wrap up this adoption fair. And so here, welcome, Martha. I think I actually know the most about this part of Ziki's history. This is Ziki, a cockatiel who's been with Mickaboo since last summer. And this is actually video footage that his finder took. Ziki was a stray near where I live, and maybe you noticed, I think we're going to see the video loop in a minute again here, but his tail was cut off, and I think someone had thought that would keep him from being able to fly away, and it didn't. Fortunately, they brought him inside, and now he is safe with Mickaboo and with Martha.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. So now that Ziki's had a little time to settle in, do we have a sense of whether they are male or female?
Ziki is male, and you can tell because he is a normal gray cockatiel. So this is the kind of cockatiel you would see in the wild in Australia, where they come from. So the gray body, the yellow head, and the red cheeks. If this type of cockatiel was a female, you wouldn't see the yellow mask. You would still have the red cheeks, but not the yellow. So definitely by looking at him, you can tell that he's male. And there's also often you can tell by behaviors. So whistling, and they do something that's called heart wings, where they sort of hold their wings out, and from behind it looks like a heart. So there are some behavioral things, but you can definitely tell he's a male. Yeah.
He's super cute.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know how old he is. I don't know if we've been able to make any guesses based on his body condition. We did sort of refer to that with some of the other birds earlier on, but we were, even though they were foundlings, that we were able to kind of guess at ages. I don't know if we've been able to do that with him beyond the fact that he's an adult male.
Right. And we can tell generally with cockatiels, we tend to go with, they're about 5 years old. They're maybe 5 to 10. They're older than 10, so we're giving him like the 5 to 10 sort of age range based on like what his feet look like, his feet, his beak, that kind of thing.
Is Ziki comfortable with people?
Well, as you can see from the video, he's not thrilled with hands, but he is also not running away from the hand that's holding this millet of doom, apparently.
Yeah, that's a little surprising.
Yeah. So, and I found this too with other cockatiels that I foster, that, a hand that, millet, just because it's millet doesn't mean they're going to go right to it, because hands can be really dangerous to birds. Because they're going, and especially cockatiels can be very skittish. Just they tend to be timid mostly. So
they're little. They're like
they're little, yes.
They're smaller than robins.
Right. So, and generally they're bigger than hummingbirds, and hummingbirds are fearless. So
that's true.
It's just a matter of
not all about size, but yes, they are timid.
They tend to be timid. So he's not, he's not great with hands. What he's really looking for is a cockatiel buddy. That would really be good for him. And I think that with a cockatiel buddy who is already comfortable with people, Ziki would probably learn to be comfortable as well, because they do tend to learn behaviors from other birds. When they see something is safe, they go ahead and do that too. So.
Yeah. So we have a couple audience questions. One, is he friendly or aggressive? So I really wouldn't call any cockatiel in the world aggressive. So I think the timid, as we already kind of talked about, covers that one the best. Other is, does he have any health issues?
He doesn't at this point. As I said, he doesn't seem to be very old. He seems to be in pretty good health, which, we can tell by mostly, I look at things like, are their nares or is their nose clean? And what do their droppings look like? As long as they're eating a good, healthy diet and have healthy looking droppings, we know that they're in good shape. Obviously, his tail feathers need to still grow out, but that's not really a health issue. That's just needs to have a good molt, and those will come back. So he's a good, healthy bird. And good on a good, healthy diet too. So
what is he eating?
He's getting a combination of things, which is always good for birds, to give them a choice of things that they want to eat, as long as they're healthy choices. He's getting nutrient cakes, which is something that, as Peggy mentioned with her Budgies, a combination of seeds and pellets. Getting a few other pellets and a sprinkling of seed, and that's the basic diet. Then he also seems to like broccoli, and he'll chew on green leafy green things like, kale, romaine, things like that. What I found is, and I learned this from another foster home long time ago, that when it's good to give a variety of pellety diets. Here he is eating some kale. This is in another foster home, his original foster home. It's a good, and here he is getting a bath.
Soaking wet.
Yes. So he definitely likes baths. But giving a variety of foods, and even the pelleted diets, is a good idea. So in case you run out of one, they'll still eat something else. So yeah,
that is a good idea. Oh, look at him taking his bath. Yeah, you could see the corner of the mister every now and then up in the right hand top corner of the.
I found cockatiels love a mist bath. which of
Yeah.
course means that you have to do all the work.
That's true, except there are some of the pressurized pump mist
Yeah,
bottles.
I haven't really tried those yet. Yeah.
They are, I have a lot of ergonomic issues with my hands, so they're worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommend those. So what are some of the typical things that Ziki likes to do with his day?
Aside from eating and getting a bath, and cockatiels will not always take to bathing like this. Sometimes it's just not, they're just not into it that day. So you just, try it the next day. He likes to chew on his toys. He likes palm leaf, like shredder toys, that kind of thing. Some actually harder wood, which not all cockatiels like. A lot of times I give my other fosters balsa wood, which is softer, but some of them do like hard, like a pine wood. So he'll chew on those toys. As I said, chewing on leafy greens, eating. He also likes to sit on the top of a toy at the top of his cage and expound on, give his opinion of the world, which somebody might call yelling, but prefer to say it's his oration.
He's got a lot to say.
He's got a lot to say, yes. And so, yes.
And a comfortable place to sit while he says it.
Yes, and birds will choose to be at the top of their cage because that's just the safest place to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I think this is that spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually the toy on the left that's all chewed on. He'll sit on that because that's the highest thing. And
Okay.
yeah. and expound. Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, he is so cute. Cockatiels are very sweet. They are just very, very sweet.
Yes. And that's the perch that he sleeps on. So it's a Buddha perch, a Buddha brand perch that is cotton rope. And that's where he sleeps. Again, high up in the cage.
Very good. Audience question: does he have any health issues?
No health issues that we, he's young enough that he doesn't have any of the things that might happen when you get old, like liver and kidney problems, but
arthritis, all that.
Arthritis, right? Yeah. So.
Honestly, the thing I would worry about the most right now, until his tail finishes growing out, is if he loses his balance. He's a good flyer. We know that because he was on a third-story balcony when he was caught by this kind person. But with that tail cut off, they're going to zoom in just a second here, and you'll see it there. If he loses his balance, he could have a hard fall and really hurt. Like, he could bruise his keel bone. He could fall sideways and bruise his wings.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I've had other birds that just are not, if they don't have good balance, they can really do some damage.
Yeah.
Don't realize it.
Yeah. That's the thing I worry about the most with birds who have a bad clip of their severe wing clip or these wacky tail clips that we saw a couple of last year. I don't know what was trending somewhere that people thought that was a bad idea, but it's actually, birds use their feathers as part of how they just keep their balance and move in the air. Not even in the air, just like on the perch. It's just part of their balance.
Right, it's part of their bodies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here comes the millet.
Here comes the evil millet of doom. And if anyone out there hasn't had parrots yet or hasn't had small parrots, pretty much all budgies, cockatiels, finches, lovebirds, like 98% of them love millet, but they're not all at a point yet where they love it when it's attached to a human hand. And Ziki is clearly not there yet.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time. So quick reminder to our audience, we will continue to be very happy to take your questions in the Q&A in Zoom or on Facebook. Let me look at my list of questions here and see if I have anything I haven't gone through yet.
I would like to reiterate that, just because he's he's acting this way now does not at all mean that he could not be a good friendly companion to you with another bird, giving him some kind of guidance, I think,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for one thing, just like time, I mean, I feel like we as humans should expect to have to prove ourselves to these highly intelligent, emotional, wild animals that we're asking to live in our homes.
Yeah.
And
Because they are
but
wild.
also, they are, yeah. And also they do watch and learn from each other and from us. And like some of the things Sarah was saying about Shemu's social eating when they eat their dinner, and birds do that with each other too, playing with toys, socializing with humans, all these things. And if we don't give them the chance with a good diet and with social opportunities and things, they certainly won't. But if we do give them the chance, then they have the chance to. So yeah,
We get so many birds in that people just gave up because they just didn't know or just really didn't have the time. So that's why we always tell people, patience with our process, and patience with the birds is, will go a long way, having a good relationship.
Yeah. I know my job as the host of this event is mostly to just ask questions and listen and facilitate. But I have to say that as a small child, I was a person who didn't have patience and didn't follow through. And it is my parents' commitment to follow through on my first pet birds. That's the reason they had a decent life. And now I can do better, but I had high expectations and no follow through as a kid. So trying to do better now, as we all are.
And passing it on to your kids. Yeah.
Well, that too, yes. Hopefully you guys haven't been photobombed in the background during the event.
No.
I'm not seeing any more audience questions about Ziki at the moment, and we are almost out of time. But is there any last thing you'd like to say besides don't give up? Look at him. Just look at that face.
He's a
Don't give
beautiful
up.
bird. He's going to make somebody a wonderful companion, and he's really looking for a cockatiel friend. So, that's going to be his best place.
Yeah, maybe to those people who reached out with Shemu, I mean, sometimes a certain bird grabs your heart, but if for someone who's already got birds and is looking to add a companion, this is a bird who clearly is looking to add a companion of his own. So maybe there's a match there. Thank you so much, Martha, for introducing us to Ziki. What a great way to end this virtual adoption fair.
Thanks, Katie.
So that's all the birds we have time for in today's adoption fair, but we do have time for a few more questions, so please do keep them coming. We've also just shared a survey link with you, so if you have feedback on today's adoption fair, please do go ahead and share that with us. We're always looking to learn, to improve. We want these events to be useful and helpful to you. If you fell in love with one of these birds, please do contact us. If you haven't started our adoption process already, go for it. You can sign up for the basic bird care class at mickaboo.org under the classes tab. It's being offered every 2 to 3 weeks, like we said, and it is free. It will take time. You need to pay attention. We're going to ask you questions, but it is free. That is our gift to you and the birds, knowledge, so that we can all do better than I did as a kid. If nobody here seems like the right bird, take a look at the others on our website. Again, that's mickaboo.org. We have 450 birds who all deserve their homes with you. Just a few more things before we sign off. If you would like to support the work that you've seen, the birds you've met today, and all the other ones you didn't, it's easy to donate. We have links on our Linktree page. And we'd be very grateful for your support. Our veterinary bills are significant. We are having some hosted online events in February and March. In February, we're going to focus on the San Francisco wild conure flock. These birds are special and different than what you saw today, in that they are wild, living here in our local San Francisco Bay Area, and in large part, they are thriving. However, the ones who don't usually end up perching with Mickaboo. We'd love to tell you about them. So please sign up and mark your calendars. That event will be on February 11th. And then in March, we had to do it. March Macaw Madness. Macaw March Madness. Mad Macaw Marchness. Join us. That'll be in March. I've mentioned it a couple times already, but our basic bird car class is going to be offered next week on Sunday, the 4th of March. You can see the details and sign up on our events page. Last, I'd like to thank all the foster parents and birds who gave up their time a couple weeks ago to rehearse, and again today to come on camera, to take video, to field all your questions, to take care of all of the details that make an event like this run smoothly. Please stick with us through the credits and see who they all were. We'll keep monitoring the Q&A and keep taking care of your questions as that happens. Thanks for joining us today. Goodbye for now.